I'm Sue, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about relaxation and breathing techniques for labor and pushing. Before we get into the meat of the subject, I would like to just talk about, and I'm frequently asked as a childbirth educator, what causes the pain that I feel in labor? And the most obvious one is the contractions that we feel from the uterus. It's a muscle that's contracting. So contractions are certainly different levels of pain for people. Some people have a high pain tolerance, some people have a lower pain tolerance. However, there's a lot of tension. Most women in labor don't look relaxed. If you look at a woman in labor, usually her face is squeezed up, her shoulders are up to her ears, her hands are in fists, her whole body is tense, and maintaining that level of tenseness in the body over hours and time really takes its toll on your ability to cope. Additionally, there's some fear of the unexpected. And one of the things that you're doing now is helping yourself to decrease some anxiety, increase knowledge by listening to some of our childbirth education classes. So by entertaining understanding of what it is that you're fearful and how you're going to go about to deal with it is really helpful too. In one of the previous classes, I referred to labor as a marathon. You wouldn't think to just say, today I'm going to go out and I'm going to run a marathon and go. Most people wouldn't, at least, unless you're a hardcore runner. For most of us, if we equate labor to a marathon, again, 12 to 24 hours is a very long time to pace ourselves. There's certain things that we can do to help ourselves through the pain of labor. And, we're going to talk about some of those things today. And then lastly, we have muscles that are stretching. Consider the cervix that is trying to thin and open to dilate. We have the baby still moving, hopefully, in your belly. That's a good sign, but sometimes those movements that the baby does as it tries to negotiate the twists and turns of the birth canal can cause you some pain. You won't be able to do a lot of sleeping during labor, and if you haven't been sleeping a whole lot prior to going into labor, the end of pregnancy, your uterus is quite large, your baby is quite large, there's a lot of back pain, a lot of difficulty in positioning yourself in a way that's comfortable for you to get more than a few hours of sleep at a time. So the lack of sleep takes its toll as well. The other thing, keep in mind, we're not going to be feeding you too much in labor. Usually, if your doctor's in a generous mood, she'll go ahead and prescribe that you can have some ice or maybe even ice water, maybe some clear liquids. But for the most part, you're going to have to save eating your hamburger or your salad until labor is complete and your baby's delivered. So the lack of food sometimes takes its toll on a person as well, too. So what can we do to minimize or maximize, as you will, the pain that we feel and our response to it? So we can try to control the things that we can control. And again, the lighting in the room, the environment, whether it's loud and noisy or quiet and calm, the temperature of the room, hot versus cold. I frequently find when I go into mom's labor room, she's almost naked. The room is frigid, and the support person is curled up in a ball with 10 blankets. And so the idea is that it takes a lot of energy to labor a baby and to deliver a baby. And so mom tends to use a lot of energy, and they're very hot. So again, these are things that you can control. We previously talked about, bringing music that you would like to play, music to labor by, music to deliver by. These things are in your control as well, too. How you position your body. So in labor, you can go side to side. If you're healthy and well, and so is the baby, you might even be able to get out of bed, walk around, sit in a chair, sit in a rocking chair. We also have something called a birthing ball, and a birthing ball is something that you can sit on to help position your body in almost a supported squatting position that helps to open up your pelvis as far as it can go, allowing the baby to descend a little bit faster, a little bit easier. The peanut ball is another thing that we use in labor that helps to, again, position your pelvis. So if you're not walking around or you're not able to be in an assisted squat position, you can go ahead and use the peanut ball to help your body to stay as open as possible so that the birth canal is available and easier access to your baby. So you can also consider medication and or anesthesia. And that's for another class that we'll be having. Today's focus is more on the breathing. Lots of things you can do. You can certainly Google. There's the Bradley method. There's Lamaze breathing as well too. Today's class is just going to focus on some basic types of breathing that you can use while in your labor. They may work, they may not work. I find one of the most things, the best thing that you can do, to be honest, is to find what's called a focal point. And so a focal point can be a person. That can be the support person that you brought in. It can be a picture. It can be a sound, depending on how you best focus. Many people I see, if you have other children, they bring a picture of their children with them. Other people use their pet, their beloved cat or dog, as a focal point. Some people bring a picture, if it was a honeymoon or a safe place, the Caribbean, a beach, those kinds of things really help as a focal point. The breathing that we recommend usually is paced by how fast your breathing is going itself too. Keep in mind, the more pain you have, the more fear you have, the more anxiety you have, the faster you breathe. It's not something you can control necessarily. That's just the body's response to pain, fear, and anxiety. You increase your breath. Keep in mind, we want to signal the body when a contraction comes, which you'll feel in your belly, to do what you might consider doing is tensing up, but we actually want to condition the body to relax. So the first breath you take when you feel a contraction coming is called the relaxation breath. And so it looks like this. I'll find my focal point, I'll take a nice deep breath in, and then I'll slowly pause and blow it out. So this is what it looks like. So we start every contraction with a focal point, a nice deep relaxation breath in the beginning, and then when the contraction's over, we signal the body to relax again. So we try to relax as best we can before and after. Keep in mind, most people describe contractions as a cramping sensation or even a wave-like feel to it. It kind of starts out a little bit and kind of builds till a peak, and then it slowly ebbs away or flows away, so that you feel the pain at its worst at the peak of the contraction, and the beginning and the end are not quite as intense. So let's pretend we're having a contraction now, and it's hard, and again, there's no way for me to simulate this, there's no way for you to simulate it at home. But sometimes what I'll ask support people to do while we practice breathing is to do something that would be somewhat annoying to the mom. So for instance, the idea is that they're trying to distract you, you're trying to focus on your breathing. So maybe they'll have your hand and they'll be tapping during your contraction. Or maybe they'll use a small piece of ice. And ice gets colder the longer it's on your skin. So maybe they'll put a piece of ice on your hand or on your arm, and your goal, your challenge is to try to focus on your breathing. So again, these are some suggestions you can use to try to simulate what a contraction might feel like, how distracting that pain can be from what you're trying to focus on, and then the breaths that you need to take for that. So again, we start our contractions always with relaxation breath in the beginning, relaxation breath at the end, and as your contractions get more intense, we change our breathing. So we're just going to do some slow, deep breathing that would normally be done approximately early phase of labor, 0 to 3 centimeters. Okay, so this is what it would look like. Finding my focal point. Notice my breath. I'm trying to use my mouth and my nose, both. If you have a stuffy nose and you can't take breath in through your nose, no problem. You can do mouth breathing. Keep in mind though, this mouth breathing can really dry out. So it's best to have some ice chips next to you or ice water cup when you're doing practicing. And again, when you're in the hospital, we'll have those things available to you. One way the support person can be helpful during this time of contraction when mom's trying to do her focused relaxation breath and deep breathing is to really try to either breathe with her if she's struggling, or just know and be ready that she's going to need that sip of water or that ice chip after the contraction's over. I know that's one thing my husband did that was really helpful. I did my breathing, I would turn to him, open my mouth, and he'd throw an ice chip in my mouth, and I was happy, and he did something to help me, and so we were a good team together. So again, slow deep breathing coupled with the relaxation breath at the beginning and the end is good for the beginning of labor. As things get a little bit more intense, as things get a little bit more challenging for you, you're really going to need to change the breathing. So you can continue to do deep breathing, only not quite as, you want to do it a little bit more shallowly. Or you can do a rhythmic type of breathing. So let me demonstrate the first one first. So this will be a little bit faster paced deep breathing with my relaxation breath in the beginning and relaxation breath at the end. So this is what it looks like. Again, I'm blowing out like I'm blowing out a candle, using pursed lip breathing for both the relaxation breaths and the deep breathing. Notice my deep breathing was a little bit faster paced. For some women, it's a little too fast. They need more of a rhythm to it, and that pulls back a little bit from your breathing. People do this all kinds of ways. Some people like to be more vocal when they're having pain and they're having contractions. Other people like to be more quiet. So I like to call it the puff, puff, blow type of breathing. And so literally that's the words you would use, or the thought that you would think, if you will, when you're doing that kind of breathing. So for contractions in the middle of our labor, towards maybe the end of our labor, this is what it would look like. Again, you can use any combination of sounds or puffs and blows. You can do 3 puffs to 1 blow, which would look like this. Now, support people, keep in mind, by the time mom needs to use rhythmic breathing, she's at the middle to end of her labor. This is intense. Contractions are lasting about a minute. They're coming about every 2 to 4 minutes, and there's not much break in between. So many times at this point, if they were using a focal point that was a picture or music, they may need a face. They may need somebody to actually do the breathing with them. So keep that in mind. Another option for rhythmic breathing is using something that's more vocal, and I had alluded to that before. I call it the ah-ha breathing. So there's a little pause between the ah and the ha. This is what it looks like. Again, you could say words. You know, a lot of women sometimes use imagery, which is, you know, if you think the thought, you say the thought, you'll feel the thought in your body. And that could just simply be the word out. So you do your relaxation breathing in the beginning and end, and you just say the word out as slowly as you can, taking a pause. Out, out. Again, it's not for everybody. Some people like it, some people don't. It just depends on how vocal you feel the need to be. The idea is while screaming is a choice that you can make. It's not helpful to your body. It does not conserve your energy, and it makes you feel even more out of control. The idea behind this relaxation breathing is to give you back some level of control. You know you got to get through a minute-long contraction. You can watch the clock. All of our rooms have clocks in them with second hand. You know the first 15 seconds aren't going to be so bad. You know the last 15 seconds are not going to be so bad. It's 30 seconds of the peak that is going to really rock your world, and that's where you have to focus, and that's where you have to do something. So, you know, if you want to go natural, the breathing is helpful. If you're not interested in going natural, there's a certain amount of time that you need to wait before you can have pain relief and pain management. So this is a form of pain management. It's all natural. There's no risk to you. There is no risk to the baby. There are no side effects to using relaxation breathing. One thing I wanted to talk about before we end is positions for pushing. So moms can be in pushing positions as long as the baby's heart rate can tolerate it, you know, in almost any position of comfort. So these are demonstrated on the poster. You can be on one side or the other. You can prop your pillow, you know, on your side. You can have your support person hold up one leg. You can do what's called hands and knees, or all four. This is a great position, especially if at this point in time you're still feeling that back pain. Somebody can apply pressure to your back while you're doing pushing in this way as well too. It's easy for you to squat down in this position as well. It also gives the maximum space for your pelvis for that baby to do any last minute turning it needs to do. More traditional positions are more sitting in the bed with your knees pulled back slightly. And again, that also helps to open up your pelvis too. Supported squat is another option. The nurse and your support person can both be on either side. We also have something called the squatting bar. So we can get you up and you can hold on to the bar and support yourself while you're pushing as well too. Pushing, again, you're a more active participant. It's not so much about the breathing. It's more about how you're using your body and positioning your body to allow gravity, the contractions, and yourself to help your baby to descend and exit the birth canal. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for choosing Holy Redeemer.